think one of my fondest memories is the very first show I did at Comedia in Brighton with the Maydays. And I remember stepping on stage, doing a few things and feeling the most, and aggressive is often seen as a bad word, but I mean it in the best possible way here. I felt aggressive support. I felt I could walk on air, and this was, and don't get me wrong, I've played with plenty of supportive players, but as an ensemble, I really, really felt it. And it made me think two things. Firstly, oh my goodness, I can do anything. And secondly, I need to up my support game. So yeah, that's one of my fondest memories, because I really remember that feeling and it stayed with me.
I have a lot, and some of them are just going to be kind of like one-liners or odd words here and there, because I can't think of anything like, it's not one solid, oh my God, earth-shattering moment. There's lots of like mini wonders. I really enjoyed, and I think probably because there's a photo prompt as well, we won a trophy at the Bristol Improv Festival, and there's a picture of us in our greys, which we used to wear, holding this trophy. And I seem to remember making everybody drink champagne from this plastic trophy afterwards. We have a picture, I think, of Jason Blackwater and Jules drinking champagne, or not champagne, it wouldn't be, because we are an improv company. I would say beer, drinking beer from a leaky but lovely trophy, which was shaped like a cup.
I have a fond memory. I mean, it's the sort of obvious one, I suppose, that we were sort of 2-3 years in, and we'd just, I'd gone out to Chicago, but also seen Baby Wants Candy in Edinburgh, so I knew a little bit about long form, and we were excited about doing a Baby Wants Candy style musical. So we'd managed to train up some musicians, or vice versa, we'd managed to train each other, because there was no reference point in the UK. And we were doing a show called Mayday the Musical at Brighton Fringe. And it was really, I'm sure it was crazy and a bit of a mess, but it was definitely new and something that wasn't happening in the UK at that point. And we won the Best Comedy Show award. But we didn't know that was going to happen. We just went to the ceremony, we were like, oh wow, we got invited, that's nice. And it was in a massive venue. Jimmy Carr was presenting. And then we won, and we were like, what? And we were very surprised, and it was really nice. And then we haven't won any awards for 12 years. Apart from the other day. No, we won one the other day, that's untrue.
I've enjoyed all the Happily Never Afters, watching it grow into something really quite wonderful. We've got lots of standing ovations, mostly abroad, which have been lovely.
Again, there are so many fond memories. I don't know, the one that always springs to my mind is, because we do our retreat every year, and it's always been in the same place, so like sort of 13 years of retreats, 12 years of retreats, they all sort of blur into one event, even though they've been separate. And now we do 2 a year, it's like every time I go it's the same time, it's like being in a time warp. But I remember one year, like the bonfire and singing songs and just a general campfire feeling. But one year I remember being in an attic in a show, not in real life. And I was playing a kid in an attic, and all the Maydays were playing My Imaginary Friends. And I remember Jason Blackwater did a really good Batman impression. I can't remember who everybody else was, but I just remember like that lovely feeling of like, oh, you get to be a kid forever when you do improv. So yeah, all the retreats and that particular child in the attic moment, which was not real.
Oh yeah, so I remember in the old nursery space under the arches, it was you and me, actually, John, watching the total eclipse of the heart scene. So it was one of the best improv scenes I've ever seen in my life, and I wish we had a camera on John's reaction to it. It's one of those extraordinary combinations of skill and musical beauty and grace and just plain luck happening in this scene. And the entire audience was composed of the two of us, John, who's I'm talking to right now, and myself, watching it. I remember we just looked at each other, you were sitting on my right, sitting on your left, looking at each other going, how is this even possible? And we asked that question afterwards, which audiences always ask, which is, how can that have possibly been improvised? And to have watched that scene, something that extraordinary, and been the only people who will and can ever have seen it, and also it wasn't recorded, it's just gone, passed into the ether. That's a very weird thought.
There was a lady who sketched us at the Edinburgh Festival, and I don't think it was fan art because I think she only saw one show, but I like the fact that she was an artist and she came, she drew us, and no one's ever drawn me in anything. And we had a lovely selection of photos there on our social media now, and I think that's a really lovely thing to do. It's really nice to be drawn. It's kind of cute and weird, and part of you is like, oh, I've made it, fan art. That's a thing.
we did one of our retreats. We live streamed Jason Chin doing a monologue for an Armando. He was a very good friend of the Maydays from America, from Chicago, and it was just really nice. It's just really, in hindsight, because he passed away, it was a really nice moment, even though the internet connection was not at its best.
I remember doing a show for 200 Norfolk Vicars, and having always been a fan of Alan Partridge, and being able to do a show that was artistically satisfying but also titivated them, because they were obviously very, very smart people. I believe Rebecca did a Latin bit at some point in there. And Jason Delplank waltzed and was himself. And it was just this wonderful contrast of absurdity and intelligence and humour, and the whole thing just came together. And it was like, wow, if we can play to that audience, that's really something special.
I will probably say Barcelona, when we did Happily Never After in Barcelona, because particularly for me, it was the first time that we'd taken that show somewhere big.
Barcelona was incredible. I can remember that. There's very few things, my memory doesn't really work. I remember feelings, and I can remember sort of shapes and colours. I don't remember any details in my memories at all, but I remember being on that stage.
I'd been to the Barcelona Improv Festival as the MD the year before and had a wonderful time, and it had all been brilliant, but this was like, okay, well this is my troupe and this is my show, and I hope it goes well. And I'm not great at stepping up and telling people what to do, but I remember being like, I want this to be right, I want it to be how it is in my head.
It was a huge audience, is a huge auditorium with big balcony seats and everything. And the show finished, and the applause started, and it was like a wall of wow. And I just remember this feeling of like complete, utter pleasure through every bit of my body. It's like, wow, this is an insane reaction.
I can remember the applause, and I can remember thinking to myself, just put this in your memory and keep it like a little glowing treasure, so that every time you're on stage and 3 people turn up, and every time stuff doesn't work, just remember that we did this, and we came here and we made this show, and it just changed everything. So that one.
We did Finland and Athens quite soon afterwards, and both of those got a similar response. So I do remember sitting in a park in Finland on a really, really sunny day, just kind of going, it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. This is good. People like it. And so that moment of kind of realizing, yeah, we've got something pretty special here. And I'm tingling just thinking about it.
Oh no, I've got some more. Oh yeah, a personal lovely thing was that we had, I think it was maybe, it was one of my, not first Corkies, but one of the ones near the beginning. So Christmas at Corkies is, we always have Maydays Christmas after Christmas, because none of us are free. And we called it Christmas at Corkies because it used to always be at John Creamer's, and John Creamer is Corky from, it's Corky St Clair from, now, which Christopher Guest film is it now?
Waiting for Guthrie.
Thanks. So that hence the nickname Christmas at Corky. So it's John is Corky, we celebrate Christmas at his, although we now celebrate it not at Christmas at anybody's. Long backstory to say I had a great one once because it was over my birthday, and I really wasn't asked about celebrating my birthday. I was a bit miserable, and I got there, and I'd mentioned it was my birthday, but whatevs. But turned out I got a cake and beers, and it was so nice. It was really lo-fi, but it was really nice. It's always lovely when your birthday's remembered and celebrated, and it was just a lovely low-key birthday celebration with a walk, a hot potato, and a birthday cake and some beer, and I was just chuffed to bits. It was just lovely.